It was the three-legged dog of comics.
It was bad.
These two gentlemen met in jail, and then when they got out, they started publishing.
It should have been mobsters instead of doing what they're doing in comics.
Management there was questionable at times.
Some of it has to do with people who go to jail.
We are sinners. We have corrupted the youth. Stuff that should never have been sold to kids. And then there was Charlton. I couldn't quite tell what they were doing.
Charlton was just a hodgepodge of weird titles.
What is this? Who am I dealing with?
John threw nickels around like they were manhole covers.
CATAP. They were cheap.
Hell yes, they're cheap.
They were a special kind of special is what they were.
Critic was horrible.
You could smell them beginning to decay even as they were rolling off the press.
At one point, they actually did have to move the comics operation into a bowling alley.
It's something out of a sitcom.
We want to publish comic books in the worst way, and they did.
It's been called the street-fighting cousin of Marvel and DC. Maybe you've heard of them. Probably not. But you do know the industry legends that called it home. This is Charlton Comics. Follow at charltonmovie.com.
Oh, it's going to suck.
Hey there, this is John from Pint Comics.
And I'm Lloyd, also from Pint Comics.
And I'm the other John, and you get it by now. As you may know, we sometimes use language on this show that can be described as...
filthy.
Okay.
Reprehensible?
Uh-huh. Crude?
Sure.
Nasty.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, guys. We all know that it's just plain out gutter talk.
You've been warned. Listen in.
Welcome to the Pint Movie Invitational Series.
Got my foot banged up and... Want to see it? Yeah.
How do you say no? Oh my gosh.
I know.
When did you do this?
I did it the other day. It hurts, you know?
Didn't you feel any pain?
Yeah, it really hurt. It was...
That toe is almost dead.
All right. If this is your first time listening to Pint of Comics, welcome. If this is not your first time, if you have been here repeatedly, welcome back. I'm Ganache. Along with me for this ride tonight, Lloyd the Manster Green. Manster, what's going on?
Oh, man, just dealing with this shit I'm so sick of.
Yeah.
I just want to get back out there, take my face mask off, and run around naked.
I have to wear my face mask at work, and I work like 10 to 12-hour days, and I keep it on like almost the entire day. I got out of work last night. I took it off. I literally came in my pants. Yeah, it was so sexual. It was so gross. I had to drive home with a big clam in my pants. It was so horrible. Yeah. Along with us for tonight's ride, it is a member of the Six Pack. He has been on multiple times. You might remember him from the Pint Movie Invitational episode where we talked about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. He was also on an older episode when Sir John and myself did our Marvel movie rankings, right? It was me, you, and Sir John. And we also did an episode where we rated every single DC movie made up to that point, which I think it was right before Justice League came out. That was a couple years ago. From Arguing with Myself, which is a awesome blog, reviews, all that good stuff. Chris Frodell. Chris, what's going on, man?
Oh, nothing.
Nothing?
As the viewers don't know, I was arguing about other things prior to this recording. So,
you had a little bit of an issue getting on. Look.
Good Lord.
I've said it before, man. The Pint is known for being in the 215, sitting around the table I'm at right now, drinking beers, laughing, talking, blah, blah, calling each other names. Yeah. It's not like that right now, and it has been replaced by a technological nightmare. But that's how a lot of podcasts are right now, and we're going to do it to it the way we do it to it. So Manster and Chris are here, but I've got someone else on with us, and this is a Pint Movie Invitational episode. You heard Andrew Morgan introduce it, so you know that's what it is. Now, if you go back at this point, several shows ago, I did an episode with a friend of mine, 100 Proof Book Project, all about Superman Unchained, the 9-issue Superman miniseries that it was all right. We talked about that. We talked about on that episode. I wanted to give a follow-up. I was selling a large chunk of my New 52 collection, and the review was going to be based on whether I added that to my sell pile or I'm going to keep that in my collection. And Superman Unchained is going in the sell pile.
Oh, no.
Yeah, look, it wasn't bad. We talked about it, but I just don't ever see myself like in like 8 years going, you know what I want to read again? Don't see it happening. So
No. Like in 2 years from now, you're going to be like, boy, I wish I had those comics with Corpse Luthor.
Yeah. Weird Corpse Luthor. All right, you heard his voice.
Regret.
Yeah. You heard his voice. That is our friend Stu from Ghost to the Stratosphere, which is a awesome podcast based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I have a question, Stu, before we get into anything. It's a Pittsburgh question.
Oh, heavens.
All right.
I am not a Pittsburgh expert, but
okay,
go ahead.
You've lived there your whole life or not?
I have.
Okay,
I'm just oblivious.
So this is something you met. I never heard this. Like, look, I know you guys got Heinz out there. I know Steelers. I know, the sports is all the black and gold. I get all that. I know all these things. Permanentes, I even know about that. The fucking French fries on the sandwiches, that's your thing. But I was reading something the other day about like local dialects. And it said something about Pittsburgh that I've never heard before, and I'm assuming it's true, but I want to know if it's something that you use or hear a lot in your life. What the fuck is Yinz?
Oh, really? Is that you really never heard of that before? No. I don't say that. And it has different variants. Like you'll say Yinz kind of with an I, or Yunz kind of with a U or a double O. But yeah, no, that's the thing. It's like apparently the very Pittsburgh specific y'all. If you were talking to multiple people, it's what's Yinz doing tonight? Okay, so real quick, now that you said that, Frodell, have you ever heard of that?
No. Until you said it, I was like, is he drunk already?
Yeah. Manster.
Never heard of Yinz.
Okay.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I mean, around here, you're so accepted that like that is the slang word of Pittsburgh, and you just kind of think like, oh, everyone knows that.
Yeah,
no, I guess not. It's crazy. Yeah, no, I don't say it, but yeah, no, Yinz is definitely a thing.
All right.
It makes sense when you say it in a sentence.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just gibberish.
Yeah, where are Yinz going tonight?
Where are Yinz going? That doesn't even make sense to me.
Sounds so much better.
Apparently, the etymology of it is it's a bastardized abbreviation of U-ones, which who says U-ones, but I don't know. That's apparently where it came from.
I mean, I have heard, being from Connecticut and being in the metropolitan New York area, I have heard people say use. Hey, what's Yinz doing? That's actually a real thing.
Yeah.
Like when I read that, I went, Yinz. I've never remembered seeing a movie or anything where I heard that.
Well, I want to commandeer things because now I want to run a few other basic ones by you and see if you've heard it.
Excellent.
Rubber band known as gum band.
Nope.
No.
Really?
Gum band.
Gum band.
Elastic band and rubber band.
Yeah.
Okay. The shopping cart you use at the store? A buggy.
I've heard that, but never used it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cleaning up your house is redding up.
No.
What?
Redding up. Like the color red as a,
painting the town red.
Yeah, current tense verb, redding up.
Redding
up. Not at all.
Yeah. And then I don't do a lot of Pittsburghese, but there's one that I'm told is Pittsburgh anyway that I will defend to the death. Ice outside is slippy.
No.
Okay. Makes sense.
It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, let me ask you one.
Okay.
What do you got? Okay, so you go into a Subway or you go into you might have talked about this on your show once, but I still want to hear it.
Yeah.
I think I talked about this to at least Andy maybe at some point. No, I talked to Andy about this from Ghost of the Stratosphere on a personal message. So I want to talk about it on the show. So we walk into a Subway and we have a couple different words for what we're going to order. What do you call it out there?
Hoagie.
Okay. So
I've always said hoagie anyway.
Okay, so here it's a sub or a grinder. Do you guys use Grinder?
That is an app.
No, it is now.
Grinder is what I'm used to, but the word really makes no sense in relation to a sandwich.
No, of course it doesn't. Yeah. I don't know what the fuck it's supposed to maybe grind your teeth together.
Hoagie, wedge, sandwich.
All right. Final Pittsburgh question. Can you name any of the 56 other varieties of Heinz other than ketchup.
Is that what it is? I always thought the 57 had something to do with the pickles, actually.
Oh, I don't. You know what? You'd know better than me. You're from Pittsburgh, man.
I believe the 57 has something to do with the pickles.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure on that either.
If you live,
the version or the variation of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If you live in Pittsburgh and like say the cops came to your house because you had like a domestic or something, which you probably have all the time. They look in your fridge and you've got like I don't know,
Hunt's.
Hunt's catsup in the fridge.
Yeah, you go straight to jail. You go straight to jail for that.
That's what I figured.
It's insane. People take that real seriously. People from Pittsburgh go to other places in the country and they'll go in restaurants and take pictures of these bastards don't have Heinz. And it's, why do you care that much? Proud of that. They really are. It's the only thing we've got. It's on our friggin' football field.
Yeah.
They get inside the 20-yard line and the ketchup bottles start pouring. And it's all right, I guess that's the thing we're doing now.
And finally, I guess I do have one more. How have you guys recovered since the great Bane takeover of 2012? Is everything okay? You guys okay?
Yeah, they put that football field together as well as anybody can. It's not a particularly good field. As you know, I'm not a big Steeler fan, so I was hoping that they would actually just blow it up and be like, well, Steelers are going to move to Mexico City or something.
Yeah. Stu is the weird Pittsburghian, I don't know, Pittsburgh guy who
Pittsburgher? Yeah.
Pittsburgher who apparently during Super Bowl, what was that, 40? Was rooting for the Seahawks. You're a Seahawks fan.
I'm a huge Seahawks fan. We don't talk about that game. Stupid referees and that stupid Super Bowl.
All right. So let's move on to talk about the movie that Stu picked. Obviously, this is invitational. Stu, you were given the chance to pick any movie you wanted to. You started with a movie. Then you said, no, I'm not going to do that. You gave me 58 other options, and then you went back to the original movie. So what was the movie you picked, why did you pick it?
The movie I picked is Lost in Translation, starring Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson, because this was, and I know it's not like an old movie. It came out in 2003, but it was the first movie I ever saw where I was just completely fascinated by what was happening. It was maybe the first time I ever realized movies are more than just entertainment. This movie affected me somehow whenever I watched it.
That is
I have a story, and this is one of the reasons I picked it, because girl I was dating at the time and her family, they got together 2 consecutive weekends. They rented movies. We're going to watch these movies. And we had diametrically opposed opinions when it happened. The first weekend we rented Lost in Translation. And we're watching it, and halfway through the movie, her goddamn family is up and walking around, and they're like, oh, this is boring, this is awful. And I was just, inside my head, I was just like, I will kill all of you. This movie is amazing. You need to sit down and let me watch it. And then the next weekend I came home, maybe you 3 all loved this movie, and I'll offend you. They rented Mystic River. And we're watching that movie, and they are all fascinated and in love with this movie. And I'm just like, what would be better than watching this movie? Setting my eyelids on fire.
I don't hate that movie, but it's not super memorable for me.
Yeah.
All right.
I thought it was well done.
Yeah, it's good. It's not a bad movie.
I remember anything about it.
I remember nothing about it, but I remember
wait a minute, when I
watched it.
Was Jack White in that one? Oh, no, that's Cold Zone.
No, Sean Penn, Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
Never saw
Sean Penn's daughter gets murdered. He has that scene where he's going, is that my daughter? Yeah, that's Sean Penn for you, right?
That was a good Sean Penn.
Wasn't that good? That's actually a heart-wrenching scene. His daughter's dead. The cops are around the body, and he's trying to get to her body, and they're holding him back, and I'm making fun of it. What a cunt. All right. So, Chris, had you ever seen Lost in Translation before? You're a big movie guy.
I am. This slipped through my radar. Wow. Not that it wasn't, I didn't know anything about it. It just, I never had a chance to see it until I was told, hey, do you want to sit in on this podcast?
Okay.
Same here. No, I never saw it. It didn't interest me in any way, when it came out. And this is the first time just for this podcast.
All right. My first time as well. So Stu has simultaneously popped all 3 of our cherries.
Right.
Huzzah!
Yeah. That might be one of the first times on a invitational. Although I'm going to go ahead and try to remember and say, I'm pretty sure John and I had never seen the Greasy Strangler before.
Everybody wants some.
Everybody wants some. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Which I want to rewatch it. That was almost a year ago. And that's one of the movies that I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get that and rewatch that because I really did enjoy that.
But I did
I've
see
yet to watch it.
The year before we saw it. We watched
You saw it. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, you son of a...
Yeah. Before Manster gets into the cast, I'm just going to give you a little bit of general information about the movie. So, Lost in Translation, released in limited release in America on September 12th, 2003. Wide release was October 3rd of 2003. It was filmed, obviously, in Tokyo, Japan, and other areas of Japan between September 27th of 2002, and the shooting schedule was 27 days, so fairly quickly. Directed by Sofia Coppola, who is the daughter of Francis Ford Coppola, who we know from The Godfather and Apocalypse Now. Sofia Coppola has directed several other movies. The Virgin Suicides was her first. The Bling Ring was one of her later ones. And I didn't realize she directed this, but she directed one of me and my wife's new favorite Christmas traditions, the Netflix A Very Murray Christmas special, the Bill Murray Christmas special. She directed that as well. And if you've ever seen that, it's got Bill Murray, it's got Rashida Jones, and there's a whole bunch of people in it. Amy Poehler, George Clooney shows up in it. It's like 50 minutes long, and it's just a lot of fun. She was married to Spike Jonze, the director, from 1999 to 2003. And there is a lot of, conjecture that the Giovanni Ribisi character in this movie is based on Spike Jonze and her relationship with him, which obviously wasn't great because they got divorced. She's now married. I thought this was fascinating. I didn't know this. There's a French band called Phoenix, and they're actually in A Very Murray Christmas, and one of their songs is on this soundtrack. She's married to the lead singer, Thomas Mars. So,
I thought I read that.
Yeah.
And they had 2 kids together or something like that?
Yeah, 2 kids. Yep. And I wanted to say, before we get into the movie too far, as I watch this movie for this show, I'm always thinking about when I'm watching a movie for the show, I'm not thinking about like what I want to say necessarily, but I'm pinpointing things. And one of the things that I totally thought to myself was Manster is going to buy this soundtrack if he doesn't have it. Like, am I wrong? It's like it was like 2003's best college rock kind of thing.
To be honest, I've listened to the whole soundtrack on Spotify or wherever. So,
good, bad.
The movie ends with one of my really great songs from my college years.
Oh, which one was that?
Just Like Honey by Jesus and Mary Chain.
Oh, okay, all right.
When they're driving away from each other, and
yeah, I said this is Manster's sweet spot for music right here. This kind of like indie.
Yeah, it was
soundtrack. This was $4 million budget, and I foolishly did not write down how much this made, but it was a huge hit. It made a ton of money.
$119.7 million.
119
worldwide. Worldwide, I think.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing that 119 figure for the worldwide. Yeah.
I think it was
like
83 in America.
Something.
Yeah.
44 million, I think.
44.
That also
I think.
sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So this thing obviously made its money back for the studio multiple times. In the 76 Oscars, it won for Best Original Screenplay, which Sofia Coppola wrote. It was nominated for Best Picture, nominated for Best Director, and nominated for Best Actor, Bill Murray. All right.
Lost too?
The only
Sean
win.
Penn.
Did Sean Penn lose?
No, Sean Penn won. He beat Bill Murray that year.
Wow. Look at that. That
It made me really mad.
That was karma for you.
I know, it really was. I was very upset by that.
Yeah, well, Bill Murray doesn't have any gravitas scenes like, is that my daughter? He didn't have that.
And he's never been nominated again.
Bill Murray's never been nominated again?
That's his only nomination.
Wow.
Not even for St. Vincent?
That's St. Vincent. If you've never seen it, I'm not saying compare it to this. Great movie. John turned me on to that. Sir John turned me on to that.
I did enjoy that one. Yeah.
So good. It was so good. It was such a melancholy yet funny movie. Manster, take us away with the cast, and then we will start talking about the movie a little bit more.
Yeah, prepare yourself. It's a pretty long cast.
Yeah.
Well, as we said, Bill Murray. He plays Bob Harris. He's an aging American actor doing whiskey commercials, to make money in Japan.
$2 million.
$2 million, yep.
$2 million.
Then you have Scarlett Johansson, very young. I think she was 17.
17.
Yeah.
I felt kind of weird after watching this movie And not that I was, honestly, I think she's beautiful. I wasn't perving on her, but just to know she was 17. Yeah, the opening shot.
Opening shot, yeah.
Yeah. My wife made a comment that she goes, because we watch it together. Lindsay never wants to watch the movies with me. Yeah. And this one I said, I'm watching this. She goes, I'll watch it with you. We were watching it, and like halfway through, she goes, she likes to hang out in her underwear a lot. Yeah. All right, Master.
If you want to look it up on your own, that opening shot was very reminiscent of an artist named John Casser.
Yeah.
Who paints the midriff of women in panties.
Oh, okay.
I believe you will find that opening scene is actually very reminiscent of the Peach emoticon on my phone.
And similar to the Brigitte Bardot movie Contempt.
Oh, I might have to see that.
Which shows a lot more.
Oh.
So she plays Charlotte, a young, recently graduated, married young woman who's just along for with her husband, Giovanni Ribisi, plays John. He's a celebrity photographer on assignment in Japan. Always running around, and she's always just stuck at home. Or stuck in the hotel.
Speaking of Giovanni Ribisi, do you guys ever have those actors where you were just kind of face blind to? Like, there's maybe 2 or 3 actors you can't tell the differences between. Mm-hmm. Like, I know, like Dylan McDermott and Dermot Mulroney, or Bill Paxton and Bill Pullman. Giovanni Ribisi and the guy who was the star of Can't Hardly Wait. I think his name's Ethan Embry.
Yeah,
Ethan Embry, yeah.
I can't do it for some reason. I think I saw like 5 movies with Giovanni Ribisi in them, and I was like, oh, that's the guy from Can't Hardly Wait, before I finally realized they're not the same person.
The funniest part about you saying that is that if you go and watch That Thing You Do, they're in that movie together. Ethan Embry is the bass player, and Giovanni Ribisi is the original drummer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I never knew that.
Yep. All right. So, yeah.
I'll throw one more out there.
Yep.
Anna Faris as Kelly, the celebrity on location meets John.
The vapid actress.
So, yeah, I don't know who that is, but...
Anna Faris?
Yeah, I don't really know her.
Scary Movie?
Yeah. Was she married to Chris Pratt for a while?
She was, yes.
Chris Pratt, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yep.
I could suggest, if you want to watch a completely airheady movie that will probably make you laugh because I laugh at it. My wife enjoys it. The House Bunny.
Yeah.
It's a comedy, funny movie, and she's funny. Anna Faris is a really funny comedian, and she's fine. She was fine in this movie too. She wasn't looking bad at all. Giovanni Ribisi, I wanted to say something about his casting. This for him was probably like the best thing ever, because for what he had to output acting wise, this essentially added up to like probably a decent paycheck and a trip to Japan. And I'm not making fun of him, but he really didn't have to do much in this movie other than kind of like
pack up.
Yeah, just seem annoyed slightly.
Just always seem like he's going somewhere.
Right.
Yeah,
like, okay,
he had to do.
We're gonna pay you like I don't know, like let's say $500,000. Let's even say $80,000. We're gonna fly you to Tokyo. You're gonna be there for a month. You're in like 4 scenes, and you're asleep in one of them. Yes. All right.
To be fair, he did have to pretend that Scarlett Johansson was unremarkable and just a boring part of his life.
Yeah.
I turned to my wife during this movie. I'm like, why would you just leave this woman and constantly go out? And who knows if he's having an affair or not, but it's kind of implied.
Well, I think you got to dig into that. We're going to dig into that a little bit.
Yeah.
So, Stu, why don't you, as we say, bumper sticker what this movie's about?
Yeah, I think you said it a couple minutes ago, but Bill Murray is a Hollywood star who's going through a midlife crisis, and he is in Japan to do a $2 million whiskey commercial for Suntory Time, which is a real whiskey. I didn't know that, but it is. While he's there, over the course of several days, he's having a very passive-aggressive kind of fighting relationship with his wife. He missed his kid's birthday. His kids don't really want to talk to him on the phone. His wife keeps saying, like, oh, they're getting used to you not being here.
Yeah, I love that letter he gets. Oh, you missed your kid's birthday, but have a fun time.
Yeah. She's I don't want to say she's the worst, but boy, the movie really just goes out of its way to portray her as a shrew and just make her unrelatable. But then, he runs into kind of repeatedly Scarlett Johansson's Charlotte character until they eventually start talking to each other, and they strike up this I don't know how to describe it. I mean, that's kind of the point of the whole movie, but they strike up a relationship of sorts,
right,
and just become, over the course of 2 or 3 days, very important and intertwined in each other's lives until Bill Murray has to go back to Los Angeles, and she is, for the time being at least, staying in Tokyo with her husband, who's brought her there to shoot bands.
Yeah, you summed it up.
Very good, too. Yeah, so, the central question of this movie is, what is their relationship? Like, the whole movie, even at the end of it, you do not know what, like, their relationship was. Was it supposed to be romantic? Was it this weird father-daughter thing? I mean, yes, there's obviously an element of romance no matter what.
Yeah.
But, like, the movie, like, just hangs that question over you in terms of, like it's a question of connection. We've all had that in life at some point where you connect with somebody, whether it's romantically or friendly for a short period of time, and it's maybe more intense than normal. But, like, man, this is, you picked a good one, Stu, because this is like one to really talk about. Yeah, it's.
I didn't feel it was sexual. I feel they were two fish out of water. You know, he's trying to figure out what his next move is as an aging actor, and she's just trying to find her future in life. You know, does she play the wife of a career photographer, you know, sitting on the sidelines, or does she, you know, become something herself? And they met each other at the perfect time in their lives, I guess. Right. That's how I looked at it.
They're both in this beautiful, elaborate, technological city, right, with full of excess. Neither one of them really want to be there, and they're both just feeling emptiness and loneliness, and they basically bond over that.
Yeah, she's going through a lot of spiritual stuff here too, because she has recently graduated with a philosophy degree, and before she meets Bob, she goes to a temple and she's watching everything going on, and then she pretty much has a breakdown talking to, I think it's her mother on the phone, about how she went to this and she didn't feel anything, and she expected to.
And her mother gave her nothing. She's like, "Oh, I got another call. I got to go."
That's one of the things of this movie that I think that they did on purpose to kind of get you into these characters' heads, is that everybody surrounding these people in terms of in their lives, like Stu said, even if Bob's wife isn't a terrible shrew, the only time we see her or hear her is her being a passive-aggressive shrew. She's like she sends him the note about missing the kid's birthday. Oh, it's going to be okay. She sends him the carpet samples. You know, it's this whole thing. And then on her side, you've got her husband, John Ribisi there, who is laser focused on his work, not her. And then the only person he seems actually excited to see is Kelly Strong, right? That's her name. The character played by Anna Faris. Yeah. So you're getting these two people that like seem like they're boxed out, and her mother on the phone, she has a crying like moment, real tender. I think I'm broken, and she's like, okay, well the stew's on, you know, I gotta go change the pork chops, and it's like, so you get this feeling that these people are like neglected, right? Is that how you felt?
Yes. I wonder if it's not an unreliable narrator kind of situation where maybe those conversations on the phone don't happen the exact way they're portrayed, and we're just getting their interpretation of how those conversations went. Like, I wonder if those conversations weren't meant to be literal, but she feels like her mother is cold and just leaving her to her plight, and Bob feels that his wife is shutting them out of the relationship and trying to shut him away from the kids. So I think about this movie way too much, and I'm probably just completely wrong on that. But I've wondered if it's maybe an unreliable narrator situation where we're getting interpretations of those conversations since we can't actually see the person involved. It's like that whole having a conversation on the phone is not the same as having it in person. So I wonder if this is a literal interpretation of that.
That's a good point.
There's no backstory to what led them to the phone conversation.
Right.
There's, you know, obviously history with him having a 25-year marriage and her only having a 2-year marriage. You know, you have to know the inner workings of what each of them is going through. But I understand what you're talking about with the they are unreliable. You don't know what the situation is. Yes, you can hear part of the conversation through the phone, but they're reacting to it as they would with the history that they have, if that makes sense.
For me, being myself in a nearly 25-year-long marriage, it felt pretty true. It felt pretty reliable on both sides.
Does your wife love the color burgundy?
Yeah.
So
which one's burgundy?
I think what Chris said and what Stu said, and obviously we all said it, is right. But I think that we're hearing the conversation the way they're told. And it's indicative of his wife being maybe kind of a cold person and her mother being maybe a cold person. But what we do not know, like Chris said, is how many times does she call her mother a week and tell her that she's broken? You know what I mean? Maybe the mother is just like, oh, fuck. And how many times has Bob left the family to go make this commercial and do this and do this and do this and miss birthday and anniversary, and he was going to miss a dance recital, I think they said at the end, that he promised that he was going to be there for.
Right.
So it might not be unreliable narrators. It might be unreliable storytelling where, you know what I mean? Like where you're getting the actual conversation, but you have none of the context that goes along with the history. And yeah, so Bob might...
It's not on the page.
Right. Yeah, this movie, I think it lends a lot to that type of conversation. And, you know, I think one of the things that has to be said about this is that this is right in the time at the beginning where Bill Murray started more in earnest doing the more serious roles too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like he had done Rushmore a few years before. Remember, before Rushmore, even though he had done a couple movies, The Razor's Edge and stuff, Bill Murray was Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
He was Scrooged, you know? He was Stu's favorite. What About Bob? I know you mentioned you didn't like that.
Yeah, you and I had talked about that. I felt bad because I held What About Bob against Groundhog Day for years. And then I finally watched Groundhog Day recently, and I was like, oh, this is fantastic.
Oh,
that was my problem.
Did he just rewatch himself as the talent? What'd you say, Chris?
I said rewatch What About Bob.
I'm not a fan either. It's so hard to deal with in that movie. He's so fucking needy.
So you side with Richard Dreyfuss.
That character
throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
All
He's
right.
a madman.
So we basically end up in the I think it's the Park Hyatt Tokyo for the course of, like, let's say a week. It seems like they're there for a week. And they kind of have this relationship where, you know, they meet each other a few times, elevator, hallway, and then it's like, you know, in the bar, have a drink together. Then they're going out, having a fun time, lunches, stuff like that. They're slowly getting closer. Here is what might be the most important question to this entire movie. The question that people have been asking since this movie came out in 2003. What was that gun the guy was shooting them with at the arcade?
Yeah.
Apparently, according to the trivia of the movie, it's a BB gun.
Really?
But I thought it was like a taser machine gun.
I thought it was like the plastic balls or whatever that was shooting at at him with a laser
or something like that with lasers in them.
Yeah.
Me and Lynn are watching it, and that part comes up, and she, you know, he's chasing them through into the streets, and she's like, "Is he really shooting at him?" And I said, "I honestly don't fucking know." Like, I've never been to Tokyo, and I get it. You can get soiled underwear in machines there. It's a whole nother world over there. But, like, I had never seen a laser beam. Like,
I got the same question from my wife too.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, no, it's one of the notes I took on this movie was the bartender has a taser machine gun.
All right. So now we've answered the question that everybody has wondered about, Lost in Translation, for 18 years.
I have a question as well.
Yeah, what's your question?
One of the earlier times, I think it's the first time they actually made like a eye-to-eye connection in the bar. He's sitting by himself, and she's sitting with a table of people, I think, and she sees him. And when he gets up to leave, he's still got the clips on the back of his jacket from the photo shoot earlier that day.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
So that is good.
All day with that.
So there's a scene earlier in that block there where he's being made up to do the commercial, and they must have too big of a suit jacket for him, so they have like these like metal clamps that hold the jacket together in the back, tailored. And he's still wearing it when he gets up to leave. He's got this row, let's say a stegosaurus. It's pretty fucking funny. Here's another thing about this movie that I kind of was reading about, and I kind of thought it a little bit as I was watching it, but do you think Now, this was actually a complaint about this movie by a lot of critics and the Japanese people.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay, Lloyd, you go. What am I talking about?
I don't think the Japanese people really got a fair shake in this movie. There's no dignity. You know, it was just all cliche stuff, the portrayal of the Japanese culture.
Yes.
Even there was any dignity involved.
Stu, being a fan of this movie, do you want to answer that? What do you feel?
I did when I watched it this time. I was thinking like, boy, this movie feels like a massive love letter to the landscape, to the buildings, to the lifestyle even. But boy, like just being Japanese feels like the butt of the joke at a lot of times. Like there's just the scene, and I didn't realize Bill Murray was 6'2" before I Googled it for this movie. But yeah, there's that scene on the elevator where he's like literal heads and shoulders above everyone else. And it's just like, haha, Asian people are short, remember?
Chris, do you feel that the Japanese people of the culture were kind of misrepresented? Because I have what I think is my answer to this, but I want you to say what you have.
I have to say I'm ignorant to that because I watched it blindly and I'm like, wow, that seems like a loud, interesting place. And that's how I took it. Some of the scenes that both of them are in, or, you know, just one of them are seen, it looked like, how are they not being pointed at and said, look at that over there? At a guy that's 6'2" amongst people that are like 5'5" and below, you know, how are they not like, wow, that guy is tall, or that blonde girl is, you know, not like anything we see around us.
Well, they do have strippers that dance the songs with the lyrics of sucking on my titties. So
you know what? My wife turns to me and goes, is that Peaches? I'm like, yeah that's Peaches. That's the one of 3 songs that I know of hers.
I know Sucking on My Titties, and then there's Fuck the Pain Away, right? Is that
Peaches? That's it. That's the same song.
Fuck the Pain Away.
Oh,
that Sucking on My Titties song is in one of the Jackass movies too. So
there's also that crazy
Bad
scene.
Grandpa.
Oh, maybe Bad. Well, that's a Jackass movie.
Either way,
What were you saying,
that
Master?
crazy scene where he's in his bed and like the Japanese woman comes.
Oh yeah, no, I love that scene. The stripper
would send me up here. And,
Stu, walk us through
stockings.
that.
Lick them. What are you saying?
Lip my stockings.
Lick them. Them.
So essentially,
like, okay, I'm gonna rip your stockings, and you tell them that I did what they wanted to, and then she's like, no.
Yeah,
it seemed like they set him up with. So this scene we're talking about is a hooker shows up to his room, sent by the, I guess, management of hotel management or something. And
I don't know who.
And I got to be honest, I probably would have done it. That, you know, that's a whole nother thing. But she has this whole thing where like she wants him to rip her stockings, even though she's saying it's mangled.
Sounds like she's saying lick them.
Yeah, it sounds like she's saying lick them. But then she gets into this whole thing where it seems like it's almost like I don't want to say rape fantasy, but she's like, no, and like she wants him to do it, and it's this really funny scene where like it almost looks like MMA.
Yeah,
she's got him like she's holding onto his leg.
It's a hilarious scene. I mean, I feel bad because I am laughing at that scene, but that's another thing where you're talking about the portrayal of Japanese people. Like this movie does repeatedly make the L and R swap joke, and that's part of it. Is how she can't,
and they even point it out.
Yeah.
Well, I will say I did notice that.
Yeah.
So my take on the Japanese people thing is I can understand where people would be upset about it, and I see that it's done in the movie. To me, it's done on purpose because I think the whole idea of this movie is, as viewers, you, me, all of us here, we're supposed to feel as alienated as he does and she does. So what's one of the first things you notice about this movie, which is like say half in Japanese, that they don't do? No subtitles.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So there are scenes where Bill Murray is having an entire conversation with the director of the commercial.
Right, I want to talk about that.
An older guy at the like care center, that you don't hear their side.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because it's not important what they said. It is important. It's that you are kind of experiencing the weirdness. I mean, the whole scene where Scarlett Johansson's doctor has explained to her what's wrong with the foot.
Yeah.
Like,
she's just like, okay.
She's like, okay. He literally could have been like, you have AIDS of the foot. Your foot's got AIDS, bitch. But you don't know. So I think that the strangeness of Japan and the lack of a common language is the only way you could kind of see the people without hearing everything they're saying. You know what I mean?
I was going to say, it's almost like they're lost in translation of some sort.
Yeah, well,
look,
that's it. I'm done.
I'm out of here.
Good night.
If this movie gets remade in 20 years, this is how they're going to remake it. Mark my words. It's going to take place on Mars. A colony of Mars. The Bill Murray character and the Scarlett Johansson character are going to be two human, like, visitors, and everybody else is going to be a Martian. You know what I mean? Because literally, it doesn't have to be Japan. It doesn't have to be India. It just has to be two people in a place where they're totally alien.
Right.
And here's what I said to my wife about this movie. So obviously, they have this huge connection. Obviously, we'll get to it by the end of the movie with what may have happened or may didn't or may not. If these two people were at a resort in Denver, Colorado, they would have never even said hi to each other. Because the need for that wouldn't have been there.
Right.
So it makes you wonder, like, I'm going to ask all you guys. So I'll start with Lloyd. Do you think that this story could have been the same if it was like, do you think that they would have made the connection if he was a sad guy, wife being whatever, her husband's ignoring her, but if they had options to talk to other people or to do things that they understood, do you think that this would have happened?
I think if there was other people around, that they could relate to better, maybe someone closer to their own age, it wouldn't have happened.
All right. Frodell, what do you think?
I think if Bill Murray was his most Bill Murray, I can see people gravitating towards that. But yeah, if it was anywhere else, I think it would be, like Lloyd said, someone their own age,
right?
Closer to their own age. Yeah.
Stu?
I think you could make a movie with two characters in that situation where that would happen, but not with these two characters. Like, I don't think Charlotte and Bob Harris at a ski resort in Colorado meet each other now.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So in the end, not that we're done, but do you think this is more of a story of a true connection or two people that were just like lost, but also really had nowhere else to go? Like, do you think that their connection was special or it was just like they met each other, they related, and that made it special? Like, there's a difference between liking someone, being in love. Do you think, well, I guess we'll get to that at the end.
Well,
I want to see that at the end.
I think what you're saying is very open to interpretation and really depends on what he whispered in her ear.
Yeah, we're going to get to that because I want to. I've got a good exercise for that one.
Yeah.
I think the answer to the question you just posed is why not both?
Yeah,
because the situation put them together, but I think, and I don't know whether it's just the chemistry of Murray and Johansson together or if it's the inherent chemistry that these two characters had. I think the situation put them together, but I think there was a real connection there.
Okay.
I do too.
Agreed.
Especially because when they started feeling closer, Bill Murray's character, he could have stepped back, could have put a little more distance between them, but he didn't. He let the bond get deeper.
Yeah.
And possibly because of maybe something will come out of this.
One of the scenes where I felt like the bond really solidified, and it was one small little weird thing, was where he brings her back and puts her in bed. Now, I'm glad this movie didn't go that far. They never sleep together. And I was getting a little nervous about that because, well, hey, look, if at the end of this movie they ended up together, they're going to fuck. That's the way it happens. But I felt like we were seeing something more important than that right off the bat. But he puts her in bed. He lays next to her. I think it's that scene. It could be another scene. And he's laying on his back. She's like kind of fetal position. And he lets his hand touch her foot, right? Did you guys notice that?
That was two different scenes.
That was two different scenes. Okay.
Yeah, the first night he walked away.
Well, that was when they were in bed
the first night, yeah.
All right, because they go out, they party, they get shot at by a weird laser gun. Tokyo in 2002. I thought about this while I watched the movie, and I want to know if you guys thought the same thing. Do you think that, like, now none of us except for Stu saw this earlier, but let's say you went to the movies and saw this in 2003. Looking at it from the 2020 lens, it's different. But can you imagine seeing this movie in 2003 and seeing like the arcade games in Japan? You'd be like, the drum, because we didn't have like Rock Band.
That drum game was really cool.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
He was having fun.
Yeah. And like that nightclub they're in with like all the graphics on the, you know what I'm saying? Like the fireworks and everything. Like that's old shit now. But I mean, like in 2003, you'd be like,
yeah, that
they got that shit in Tokyo. I'm going to Tokyo. They got graphic bars.
I always gravitated to the Galaga / Ms. Pac-Man.
Yeah. Pizza Hut on the little glass table.
Yes, yeah. A couple years ago.
I want to go back to the bed scene real fast, though, because a couple points you guys brought up. I love that whole bed scene, like just the acting in it, how they, slowly start falling asleep and everything. But I think there are so many great subtle touches in this movie that I took notes on. But one in particular there is she leans in, like she turns over in the bed to turn towards him, and he turns over in the bed to turn towards her. And they're having this moment, and she mentions, I think she asked him a question about marriage or asked him a question about his marriage. And he very subtly turns back onto his back. And I have to assume that's an on purpose, and whether that was Murray's choice or that was in the script, but you barely notice it, but he turns back onto his back. So there's so much in this movie, and I try not to think about it because I think it undersells the movie. But when you get into are they infatuated, are they in love, or are they just friends? But I think that is a very telling scene where when he starts thinking about his wife, he actually turns kind of away from Charlotte.
Right.
Yeah.
That could have been a Murray thing because from what I read, the whole movie wasn't all flushed out by Sofia Coppola, and she gave a lot of liberties, especially to Bill Murray, to kind of improvise and just go off of what was happening in the scene, and he did it really well, especially in that the whiskey commercial.
Oh, that scene was great, where the director is going on intense. The director's going on these jags of like.
I have what he actually wrote.
Oh, go ahead.
He actually said. You want me to read it?
Yeah.
Okay. This is what the director said to him, directing him about how to drink a glass of whiskey. So he says, "You're sitting quietly in your study, and there is a bottle of Suntory whiskey on the table. You understand, right? With wholehearted feeling, slowly look at the camera tenderly, and as if you are meeting old friends, say the words, as if you're a bogey in Casablanca, saying, 'Here's looking at you, kid. Suntory time,' right?" And then the translator says, "He wants you to turn, look in camera, okay?"
So so the joke.
Is that all he said?
So the joke there is that he actually was saying more. Yeah. I thought that the joke was that he was only saying turn to the camera, but in Japanese it's like 12 paragraphs long.
He had a whole huge paragraph of what he wanted him to do.
I think it's the double joke. Like if you don't know what he's actually saying, if you don't look it up or know Japanese, you think like, oh, their language is funny. It's like old Godzilla movies. But if you do know what he's saying, the joke is that essentially the interpreter's just lazy.
Another great comedic scene in this movie, and it's not the scene itself, although it's funny, it's the next scene, is when he's on that exercise machine and it goes fucking berserk. It's like a Stairmaster kind of like extra climber, and he's on it and it's going berserk and he can't control it, and it's fucking like his legs are going out of control and he's calling for help and no one hears him, and he has to like kind of athletically backwards jump off of it. That's funny. Right. The next scene is the next morning. He's in the suit and he's coming out of the elevator to talk to the director or his handlers. The way he's walking, one of his arms is lower than the other and he's like walking stiffly, but it's such subtle comedy that, well, Bill Murray, I mean, he's a master. Right? So he was so well done. Stu, what are some points about this movie we haven't hit necessarily that you want to drag home?
I said that I had made a bunch of points about the stuff that I thought was really subtle in this movie, and there's a couple that I'll point out. There's a scene where Charlotte is talking to her husband, and the entire time he is sitting facing with an ashtray in front of him, coming out of it. And he's talking and he's talking and he's talking. And then at the end of it, he all of a sudden notices it's there and is like, I thought I asked you to quit smoking. And again, maybe it's me looking too much into this movie, but I think that's so indicative of his character where he just doesn't pay attention to what she's doing. That there's a smoking ashtray right in front of him, right in his face. And it takes him how many minutes to even acknowledge that it's there because he doesn't see Charlotte.
Well, I don't know if this is on your list, but what I noticed with them is this is pre-selfies. There's no like cell phones, but there's a point where she finds a couple Polaroids of them like canoodling, you know, like in bed, just laying together. And in both pictures, she is staring at him with like this intense, like puppy dog love. And he's just looking at the camera like a selfie. Like he's got this gorgeous, beautiful, smart woman next to him, and all he cares about is like how good he looks.
Yeah.
She's a Yale graduate in this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so, yeah. And that's like the only conversation he has with her ever is to tell her, like, oh, quit being a jerk to people. You're not just smarter than everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit nicer than that, but I mean, that's how he treats her. And
admittedly, she was kind of being, although I get it, she was kind of being like, now, woman at that point. She had that, like, who is this bitch you're not introducing me to? And I kind of got that.
Reason.
No, with good reason. Yeah. But, like, some women can play it off. Oh, hi. You know, she was just like, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
What else
do we have here on my notes? Oh, this is just a weird one. I just kind of kept track of because I didn't remember this. At what minute mark do you think it is where Charlotte and Bob come face to face for the first time?
All right.
I know that one.
I only know it because I read it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You don't mean in the elevator.
No, not in the elevator.
Not
when
in the
they
elevator.
face to face and talk to each other.
So Manster doesn't know.
I don't know the answer.
So give it a shot, Manster. I know the answer. Their first conversation.
Is it about 30 minutes?
Close. Yeah.
32, right?
Yep,
32.
that's what I had, 32, because I paused it whenever it happened. It's 25 minutes before they even interact, when they're at the bar and they kind of like make faces across the thing. And then, 7 minutes from there before they ever come face to face. And the pacing in this movie is so good because although it takes half an hour before they ever interact with each other directly, that part of the movie still seems to fly to me. And then when they start interacting, it feels like this movie just fits so much in. And what is only like an hour, 40-minute movie, and you're talking 30 minutes, they don't talk to each other. But it just feels like once it happens, so much is fit in there. And it just feels like...
And it feels natural.
Yeah.
Nothing feels like it's forced in.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. All right, what else you got, Stu? What other points do you have? I like these points.
When Charlotte is walking through Tokyo, and obviously Tokyo has all the traffic and everything, there's a couple of cuts where she is walking perpendicular to the main traffic. Like there's a big horde of people and she's walking into it. And I think showing her walking against the grain or upstream would be so cliche, but I think walking perpendicular shows like she's trying to find something, she's trying to integrate into something, but it's just not happening. Like she's missing or going through it or something. It's so cliche to have somebody going against the stream, but to have them kind of meeting it but not joining it, I think that's a really good point for her character, where, like, again, it goes into how she goes to the temple, but she doesn't feel anything. Like, she's making the effort to get there, but it's just there's some resistance on some level.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Way deeper than I got in that point. I think at that point I was thinking about getting. I'm gonna get up and should I get a bag of chips right now? This is a perfect time to go take a leak and get a bag of chips. I'm gonna pause it. Does anybody else? Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question real quick. This is outside of the movie. Does anybody else have a spouse that, like, when you're watching a movie or something, like when I'm watching a movie, if I get up to take a leak, I pause it. When my wife is watching a movie with me, even if she's into it, she'll just get up and leave the fucking room. Anybody else?
Yeah, and I will pause it for her.
2 hands up here.
And she'll tell me, like, no, I can still hear it.
Yeah, my wife too.
You're missing. You have to.
If I pause it for her, she doesn't want me to.
Does that not drive you nuts? Because it makes me feel like you're not invested.
Yeah. But sometimes it could be either or. Like sometimes she'll say, "Oh, wait a minute, pause it." Or other times she'll just like go out of the room and like, "Do you want me to pause it?" Just no, I'm good. Like because I'm gonna fill it in. If she comes back, I'll be like, "So
okay, so you
this
missed
thing
this
happened, and Oh no. And then this guy entered the room. No, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Hold on. So maybe she should pause it.
I've come home from work and like Lindsay's watching a movie without me, and I'll come through the room and she'll get up. I'm like, "Are you watching this?" She's like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, "You didn't, everything has pause on it now. This isn't 1987 anymore. Yeah. Like literally nothing doesn't have pause." She's like, "Yeah, I know." I'm like, "You make me fucking crazy." Like I can't watch a movie like that.
Yeah.
Your daughter just like walks away from stuff and she's like, "I don't want to miss it." It's like, pause it.
Yeah, but your daughter's what, like 6, Chris? 5?
She's going to be 6 in August. But
okay.
Still.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. She earned. Yeah, she earned.
Yeah. To be fair, everything my wife watches is based on how much attention do I have to pay to this while I'm playing on my phone.
Yeah.
She got real mad at me when I made her watch, Train to Busan and One Cut of the Dead and Parasite, like all within the span of a month, because she was like, I can't play on my phone during these.
I have to read.
I have to read them.
God damn you, Stu. I've got to read this movie.
And she liked them all. Don't get me wrong. She loved all those movies. She was happy with it. But it's like a lot of times I'll come home and be like, "Oh, I thought you were binging this TV show." And she was like, "No, I had to pay too much attention to it, so I stopped."
Yeah.
Got to teach these women how to watch shit. Nate, not all women. If you're a woman listener and you watch things responsibly,
hashtag not all women.
Yeah, hashtag not all women. Hashtag our women.
Hashtag not listening to Pint Comics, that's for sure.
All right, let's get to the end of the movie. Lloyd, did you have something before? I'm sorry.
I was just going to sort of parallel what Stu said with his perpendicular theme. I noticed like a light and dark theme, because you got lots of bright lights and stuff like that going on in Tokyo. And then there's lots of dark, sort of seedy, and in the hotel and the bar, there's lots of darkness. I think that the light correlates to Charlotte and her sensibilities and her outlook and her wanting to integrate. And the darkness is more like the loneliness and despair of Bob. I just wanted to sort of make that point too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Charlotte looked pretty.
Yeah.
She's pretty.
That's all I can bring to the table. So.
All right. So let's get towards the end of this movie. Bob eventually ends up, even though he's having these great times with Charlotte, he ends up banging the albino redheaded chartreuse, the jazz singer from the hotel bar. Charlotte comes to the door and realizes that he's with her, and he seems ashamed, which you don't know if it's shame for feeling bad towards her or because he's married. There's like this weird thing. And she's straight up.
I think it's both.
Yeah. She's straight up like young girl, jealous, mad, like she just, even though she's married, she's mad at him. They have the worst lunch ever. And then they reconcile again. But
they had to cook their own food.
Yeah. Well, it was a hot pot.
At that time.
Again, that was probably something, we have one in town where I live, but back in 2003, someone was like, "Oh, you can cook your own food? I'm going to Tokyo."
Who do I complain to? I've burnt it.
I need another one. I need 2 more. I need some more mushrooms. Yinz. Sorry. That wasn't a Pittsburgh accent.
There's some sauce to put on here.
So they come back together. They have their moment where they get past that, but he has to leave. He's got to get back for his daughter's thing. He's kind of getting to the point where he's ready. He at one point already extended his stay by a couple days, which he didn't want to do at the beginning. He extends his stay. So the movie, now the real question people have been asking for 18 years about this movie is, what does he say to her at the end? So the way the movie ends, he tells her he's going to leave. They have this very matter-of-fact, well, that's it. All right. Yep. They have this weird kind of embrace, and he goes to the car and she goes out to the street. He's in the car. He's leaving. He seems very melancholy. And as he's kind of just looking out at the busy streets of Tokyo, he sees her walking down the street. He does that moment that I think everybody, all of us here at some point in our life, whether it was romantic or anything, maybe didn't have the courage to do and said, "Fuck it, I'm going." You know what I mean? I'm sure we've all had that moment where like, why didn't I do that?
Yeah.
He chooses not to live that way. He is at the very least going to have a better send-off from her. He follows her down the road, turns around. It's not a cheap stunt. It was her, because there's that moment where you're like, it's going
to be someone else.
Kind of half expecting that.
Yeah,
okay.
I half expected it.
Because the ending to this movie is pretty famous, I knew it would be her. if I didn't know that, I would expect her to turn around and go, oh, hi, and have some other woman there.
Yeah.
So she turns around. It is her. They kind of look at each other. They have a kiss, which was unscripted. They agreed to do that day. That was not supposed to happen. And then he leans in, hugs her, and he whispers something into her ear. Now, there are people on YouTube that have transcribed through, oh, hold on. I got it. I don't even know if it's written in the script.
It's not.
It's not. Right.
It was improvised by Murray
because
she wasn't happy with what she had written.
Okay. All right. So good. I did not know that. He whispers something to her. They have a tender moment. They kiss. They both kind of smile. She cries a little bit, walks away. She goes her way. He gets back in the car. The movie ends. So now I'm going to ask each one of you, what do you think as his character he said to her? Okay. I'm going to start with the Manster. What do you think he said to her?
I'm torn because I have two answers. So
Only go with one.
Both?
Only go with one.
Go with one.
Pick one.
On the spot.
All right, because maybe one of Yinz will have the other one. All right, I'm going to go with we'll always have two.
Okay. All right. That works. Stu, what do you got?
I have a whole thing about this, and I'll get into it whenever we're done. But if I have to think of something that fits their characters, I think he said, when you get back, send me that toe so I know you're still alive.
Okay. All right.
Wow.
Frodell, what do you got?
I'm going real cheesy. I think he thanks her for coming into his life at that time. Because he was feeling lost. She was feeling lost. I think he's thanking her for coming into his life at that time.
I feel that he said to her that you're young. If you're unhappy, you've got to talk to your husband one way or the other. Like, you have to choose whether you're going to try to make it work or you're going to go and do your thing. I don't think there's ever a point where he suggested they get together, but I think it was I am the result of where you were heading. Maybe, like, I'm not a happy guy. You're on the path to either not being happy or being able to change things early enough to not end up where I ended up. And I think I agree with, like, yes, thank you for coming into my life because you've helped me see that, and I think I've helped you see that too. Stu, what do you have? What's your thing about this?
My actual answer is, and I remember I talked about how I'd seen this movie and how I was falling in love with it. I actually got to a point during this movie where I was watching it for the first time where I remember thinking, like, this movie's going to let me down. Like, I just don't want this movie to flop on the landing. And you get to that scene and you see their relationship all the way through, and then that moment happens. And I was just like, oh, it worked. And honestly, for as many times as I've seen this movie, I've never thought about it, because my answer to that is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what he said. What he said isn't for us. It's these two characters. They've had their dynamic. He said something. It was important to both of them, and that's all that matters. Like, I made up my stupid answer about the toe, but I've never thought about it because I just figure, like, it's not for us. Some things are just for two people to have.
I listen to Stu's podcast, Goes to the Stratosphere, and I feel like I'm listening to an episode of Goes to the Stratosphere. Stu always has those kind of, like, a lot of times it's not black or white to you. And I appreciate that opinion because I don't think it's important in the end, but I think it's kind of a cool thing to talk about as to what might have been said. Yeah. Because this has been going on, this is 18 years. I think the thing that they said, the people that have, like, translated it somehow through microscopic audio enhancements say that he says something about promise me that you'll tell that man. I think he's talking about the husband, kind of along the lines of what I said, that, you've got to do something with your marriage. Like, either it's right or it's wrong, but you're, like, 2 years in, I'm 25 years in, and I got this passive aggressive woman attacking me with burgundy carpet samples. Maybe you don't end up that way too. We get to the end of Lost in Translation, and this is the point where we talk about grades. So,
hey, wait, before you go on.
Yeah.
Did you know that Sofia Coppola wrote this with Bill Murray in mind? It took about a year to get him to agree to do it.
Yep. he doesn't. Bill Murray in like 1988 fired all of his representation.
Yeah.
He has an 800 number with a mailbox. He gives you the number if he thinks he's going to want to work with you. The only person that has an automatic go is Wes Anderson. Wes Anderson can make a movie about this coffee mug I'm drinking out of, and Bill Murray will do that movie without question. The thing with Bill Murray that's crazy, and I've heard this about other movies, and he did it here too, you can send him the script. He can say, yes, I'll do it. But until he shows up, you do not know if he's going to be there. Ghostbusters, I think they said Ghostbusters 1, that show on Netflix, the movies that made us.
Yep.
He agreed to it. He didn't show up until the first day of filming. Day one, Dan Aykroyd's there, Harold Ramis is there. They're filming, and Bill Murray pulls up to get into fucking makeup and shit, but had not contacted Ivan Reitman or anybody. He just shows up. And that was 84 Bill Murray. Now he's got clout.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think Sofia Coppola, I read, said that he showed up like 3 weeks before this movie because he had to go to Japan, so it was a little bit less. Yeah, and she said that if he wouldn't do it, he wasn't going to do the movie. Yeah, very interesting. All right, very interesting. I'm going to start off with, I'm going to leave Stu for last because I think I know where we're heading with this. Frodell, what do you give this? Now, remember, Pint of Comics, 0 to 5, and you could go half and quarter scale, 0 being the worst, a.k.a. the Sir John end of the scale, or 5 being the best. What do you give 2003's Lost in Translation?
0.5. No, I'm kidding. I will go, I'll go 3.5. 3.5. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Manster?
I'm going to give Lost in Translation a solid 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, Manster is up there.
Yeah, I was impressed. I liked it.
All right.
I did not fall asleep.
No.
That's all you can ask for.
If I don't fall asleep, that's already a 3.
super coincidentally, so we've known we're going to be doing this for a couple of weeks with Stu, and I had invited Chris on last week. I think I messaged Chris to tell him what time we were doing this, and I had just finished watching it, and then he said, I'm finishing it now, and then I messaged you, Manster, and you're like, I watched it a couple hours ago. So the three of us all watched it. So Amazon Prime, or whatever it was, saw their Lost. They're like, we're going to do a sequel. This fucking thing, I don't know what it is, but in New England, this thing went nuts. This thing went off the charts.
I forgot to ask where you saw it, so I was just like, I'll find it online.
I had to rent it.
I rented it.
I rented it on Redbox.
Yeah, I rented it on Prime. It was like $4.
Yeah,
$2.99.
Right. Oh, look at you!
Yeah, that was the cheapest one. The Redbox
discount fucker. All right, so Lost in Translation. I am gonna mirror one of my co-hosts here. I'm gonna mirror Mr. Frodell. I give it a 3.5. I really enjoyed this movie a lot. And I'm glad Stu, it's like I think Chris had said, this has been obviously out for 18 years. I've known about it for 18 years. It's not the kind of movie like Stu where I'm going to go back and repeat it a lot. I don't need to buy this, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad I watched it. So, Stu, as the invitee, what do you give the movie you brought to us, Lost in Translation?
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of cliche for the person who brings the movie to be like, I love this movie, but I love this movie. This is one of my 5 favorite movies of all time. It's a 5 for me. It's a definitive 5.0. I think it's the best movie that I've seen. Like, I love the length of it. I love the character stuff. It's one of the movies where, as I've talked about, I actually notice the things that are going on, whether they're improv or in the script. Like, I notice the subtle details of it. And yeah, I've watched this movie several times, and I just love it. I love it so much.
So Stu, hey, everybody that gets invited brings a movie on, but not very few have given 5s. You might be, I have to go back and, I wish I did something like you guys did. I wish I had kept track of what everybody's giving, but I don't know if many people have given 5s out. So,
well, I almost got time cop, so
you almost got time cop.
I only gave Eternal Sunshine 4, I believe.
Yeah, I think you were around 4.
Yeah,
that was great. That was a great one too.
Oh, I love Eternal Sunshine.
I don't think we were doing quarter ratings back then.
No, we did half. I instituted quarter because, in all honesty, half is too, like 2.25 and 2.50 is a huge difference in my book, right? So like 2 and 2.5 is way huger. So I just figured the quarter scale helped that out a little bit. All right, Manster, before we go, box office, top 10 films of the weekend that this came out.
I'm going with I think it's the release, the limited engagement release.
September 12th. That's fine.
Yeah, September 12th. So I went with that week. So top 10. This was not number 10, by the way. This was number 15.
Okay, but it was limited.
Oh, limited, yeah.
925,000. I'll go 10. I'll go backwards. I don't even know half of these movies. All right, number 10, Open Range, 2.7.
Oh my God,
good movie.
Tell me you know
that
that one.
Cartoon?
Yeah,
no.
I think that's
no.
Open Range is Kevin Costner and Robert Duvall. It's a Western.
Oh.
If you've never seen Open Range, it has one of the best shootout scenes at the end of the movie. So
realistic too.
Oh, it's so good. The end of the movie is typical Western. It all comes to a head, and it's probably like a 15-minute long fucking gunfight in this town. It's so good. It's awesome. I'm glad you saw that. Nobody knows that movie. These guys don't know that movie. Me and you.
I don't know it.
Chris.
Yeah,
I've never heard of it.
Number 9, SWAT.
Not very good.
Not good. No.
Number 8, Seabiscuit. That was pretty good.
Seabiscuit.
Yeah.
Never saw it.
Number 7, Jeepers Creepers 2.
Yeah.
Problematic movie, but
number 6.
Is it? I haven't seen it in ages.
Jeepers Creepers 2 and 1 and Powder, the Disney movie, are directed by a guy who's a convicted pedophile.
That was he did Powder too. I didn't know that.
Powder as well. So
they just associate Jeepers Creepers with them.
Because I love Jeepers Creepers. It's a really good movie, but it's like you're like, fuck, I'm watching this and this guy fucking molested a kid. I don't think he went to jail, but he was fucking on probation for years. And
he done did it.
Yeah, he done did it. It wasn't accused. It was a convicted. Yeah.
Number 6, Freaky Friday, 4 million.
Oh, Lindsay Lohan.
5, a movie that I just don't care about, Pirates of the Caribbean. Curse of the
first
Black
one was
Pearl.
good. Yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in 2003. Yeah, I liked the first one.
Yeah.
I didn't care for any of the sequels, but I thought the first one was fun.
it went off the rails after that.
I love the trilogy. I love the original trilogy. When they came back a couple years later and made Captain Jack the central character, he's not the central character. Like, what are you doing?
I remember watching the second one and thinking, like, why did they make all of these great, joyful, fun characters from the first one into unlikable assholes all of a sudden?
They definitely get darker as they go along.
Number 4, Dickie Roberts, former child star.
Oh, Nick Swartzen.
No, it's David Spade, isn't it?
I've heard of it.
That's right.
I don't.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Nick Swartzen is the lead.
No, that's David Spade.
I don't know. Check it out.
You're wrong. I'm right. It's okay. I've never seen the movie, but Nick Swartzen might be in it. But
Nick Swartzen has a bowl cut and buck teeth.
That's bench warmers. Come on. Learn your tertiary sandwich.
You're down. You're down.
All right. Get your Happy Madison categories all together. All right, buddy?
Number 3, Cabin Fever.
Oh, yeah. Cabin Fever has one of the weirdest scenes in a movie I've ever. Have you guys seen Cabin Fever?
Yep.
Horror movie.
I don't think I ever saw it.
There's a scene. So it's very timely. It's about these kids that go to a cabin and a virus hits them and they all start getting like weirdly sick. It's flesh eating. Because remember, flesh eating virus was a big thing a few years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a scene where one of the girls, she's the hot girl, and one of the guy characters like likes her. She's like in the tub, and I think she's like she's shaving, and like part of her leg comes apart, like because she's like dying, and then she hides it from everybody, and then her and the main guy character fuck. Like if your leg is rotting and falling apart like an old pineapple, like if you picked up an old pineapple and your thumb went through it, and that was your body. How much do you want to fuck someone when that's going on with your body? But
well, you could get fucked in different places, I guess.
But like, no matter how you're getting
those
fucked,
ulcers on your leg later.
Yeah. I'm like, no matter how good it feels to be getting fucked by this guy, your leg is still rotting. Like that's
actually my problem with Wrong Turn, where you have these deformed hillbillies following you, and then what do? You hide under a waterfall and you make love.
I haven't seen that in many years.
Elijah Dushku.
Yeah.
And That's all I remember from that movie.
That's all most straight guys with penises remember from any movie that Eliza Dushku's in.
Yeah.
Oh, Eliza Dushku was in that, right?
Yeah. I
My
believe,
dick remembers.
Yes.
All right. I'm sorry, Manster.
All right,
what do we got?
Moving on. Number 2. If I remember correctly, this had Giovanna Ribisi in it. Matchstick Men?
No.
Is he in that?
No.
Sam Rockwell. Sam Rockwell
and Nick Cage.
That was the one where Nicolas Cage was going. Oh, oh. He had
he had like idiosyncrasies or something. And number 1, Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Oh,
the sequel to Desperado.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what that is? I had
that
no
has
idea what that was.
It's such a weird fucking movie. Johnny Depp, and it has a great line. Johnny Depp says to a guy in it, he goes, "Are you going to be a Mexican or a Mexicant?" That's all I remember about that movie is that one line. It was fucking hilarious. Stu, thank you so much for coming on the Pint Movie Invitational.
I have literally wanted to be on one of these since, what was the first one? The Thing?
The Thing with Manson.
Yeah. Loved it. I love these episodes. These are the best. I'm a huge fan. Every time a new PMI comes out, I always tell everyone to listen to them.
Excellent.
These
we even call them PMIs, all right.
I hashtag it PMI. I don't know if it's catching on at all, but I try.
Because I should probably try to help out too. I don't. I'm going to.
But no, these are great. I love these series. I hope mine comes out half as good as the rest of them.
I think this was a good one.
Yeah,
I'm going to listen to this one.
People should go watch that movie. It's a good movie.
Yeah, no,
slow. I mean, there's not a lot of action, but it kept me.
No, it's good. I love character studies.
Yeah.
So this was enjoyable.
Stu, where can everybody find you and your co-hosts Chad and Andy weekly?
Our website is gotstratosphere.com. We have articles every single day. We've got new articles. Podcast comes out every week. Twitter, Instagram, it's Got Stratosphere. We have a Patreon, Ghost of the Stratosphere. So we're everywhere. All the podcatching apps. I don't even want to name them all. Everybody knows what they are. We're on them. Check us out.
I'm a big fan. I've been lucky enough to be on the show a few times, and it is truly
more than a few, I think.
Yeah, well, probably 2 or 3.
Yep.
A great comic-centric podcast. Always fun. You guys obviously have a good time recording that. Because we don't have you on all the time, Chris, do you want to give everybody your socials out there so they can check out Arguing with Myself? No, you don't want to?
No, Arguing with Myself, find me on all the socials. I do movie reviews. I dabble in the arts.
Satanic arts?
Oh, yes.
The way you said that, I dabble in the satanic arts.
No,
I summon some frog creatures sometimes.
Once in a while.
Yeah.
Plague of frogs. No big deal.
That's, whatever. Anybody got a goat? Because I just, slaughtered my last one. Yeah, Arguing with Myself, blog talking about movies, and sometimes I do stuff with the pint.
Yeah, you're a six-packer. All right, and us, Manster, we're Pint of Comics, at pintofcomics.com, at Pint of Comics Twitter, at Pint of Comics Instagram, Pint of Comics on Facebook, weekly podcasts, weekly radio show on Sunday nights, YouTube channel. We're going to start ramping that up again. I was talking to Lou today about starting to get some content, socially distanced content, but content nonetheless up again. So this has been a Pint Movie Invitational with Stu from Ghost of the Stratosphere. Check him out. Check Chris out. Check us out. And Manster, get us out of here.
Imagine I'm leaning over, going in for the big hug. See
ya. See ya.
That's it.
It's over, Johnny. It's over. Nothing is over. Nothing! You just don't turn it off!